Hi, I'm Barb Fox, Outreach Coordinator for our Texas OSHCON Workplace Safety Program. Today I want to welcome you to our DWC Workplace Safety CompCourse. We're going to go ahead and review the OSHA's top 10 frequently cited violations for fiscal year 2024. We're going to mention or touch a little bit on what type of industries were mostly cited, a few key strategies to mitigate these risks associated with the violations. But before I do that part of the presentation, I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit about our Texas OSHCON Safety and Health Program, which is free and confidential for our small business, Texas business employers here in Texas. And then I'll introduce you to some of our free safety and health resources online. First of all, I'm going to tell you something new, or I'm going to remind you, in Texas, we are a federal OSHA, and what that means is if you're a private sector employer with one employee, full, part-time, or temp, you just need one employee, you're required to follow federal OSHA's safety and health standards. Simply defined in OSHA standards, the standards describe the methods an employer legally requires to follow to protect their workers from serious hazards in the workplace. And these standards really cover a wide range of serious hazards. Now, there are some exceptions to those here in Texas that are not covered under the OSHA Act, which are not then required to follow OSHA's safety rules and regulations. In Texas, the public sector, state, local government, municipalities, they do not fall under OSHA, but I would like to mention when I interact with folks from those different types of services out there, they tend to use OSHA's standards, at least as the baseline for their safety standards. So there is a real value for what we give that they can still use and then implement it accordingly to how they feel it fits their part of the business. If you're an immediate family member and you're a farm employer, then you're not under OSHA. If you have a workplace safety hazard, okay, it's regulated by another agency, something like the Mine Safety and Health Administration, Department of Energy, or the Coast Guard. None of those are covered under the OSHA Act, which means they are not required to follow OSHA standards here in Texas. But private sector employers with at least one employee, y'all are required to follow those standards. Every state is required to have, by federal OSHA, every state's required to have an OSHA-free and confidential on-site consultation program, and they're all geared to help small businesses. Our program here in Texas is called the Texas Occupational Safety and Health Consultation Program. We more commonly refer to it as Texas OSHCON or just plain OSHCON. Texas OSHCON is a free and confidential service and is designed to help our smaller Texas employers identify hazards in their workplace, help them improve that workplace, and ensure that they fall in compliance with the standards and the rules that their business and their environment are required to follow. Our most robust part of that assistance is when we physically are invited to come on site. Our safety consultant will go through your facility, walk with you or your safety person, someone you designate, and identify types of hazards you got, ways that you can resolve those hazards, or maybe there's something out there that could become a hazard, to talk through how you can safeguard that so it does not fall into some type of violation out there. But it's really, it's the best way to go is our on-site consultation. But we do have to be invited by the employer to come out on site. We're 90% funded by an OSHA grant, but we are not federal employees. We're not federal employees at all. We're state employees. We work for the Texas Department of Insurance, Division of Workers' Comp, and then we're in the Workplace Safety Group. We don't issue citations, we don't issue fines, we don't issue warrants. We can't do any of that. That's OSHA enforcement, and we are completely separate from OSHA enforcement. Now, I've said before, and I'm going to say again, we're free and confidential to those small Texas employers. What that means is, as a small employer, we're more of a proactive piece of OSHA's overall concept, And within that, what we do is you can come to our consultant and say, I just found out today I need some safety programs. I don't have a clue, and I don't have any safety programs. Well, the news that being free and confidential is our consultants will help you at no cost identify what type of safety programs you need, and we'll do so confidentially. We don't tell another competitor or business. We don't talk about it when we're off work, and we certainly don't notify OSHA of that. Our whole charge is to help small businesses understand and improve and to get where they need to be so they're in compliance with OSHA standards. Now, our consultants, I've already said this, I'm a little redundant here, they'll come out if you invite them. They can help you find them, reduce your hazards, or even tell you how those things can be removed. If you've got things out there that might be imminent danger at this point, our consultants will do their best to work with you to find some way to guard it so that until it can be resolved, that it is in a protected zone to where nobody can be affected or hurt by that. Talked about written programs. Our employers can look at us. We can tell them based on their business, based on their environment that they work in, what kind of written programs they're required to have. And we have a lot of plug-and-play templates that we can give you, and our consultants have a lot of really good safety and health programs that they can have you share with you so you can develop those that you need. Our consultants also do some hands-on training. Some go on site and do that. Others might do it via video conference call or even just over a phone call if that's all that's needed there. We do provide with our industrial hygienists air sampling and noise monitoring. Those are limited to those type of businesses that really, this is a type of service that they do need. Our safety consultants typically will be the ones to identify if it looks like there's a need, talk with the employer. We'll go ahead and get that coordinated throughout our OSHCON group. Standards. There's a lot of standards out there. Any standard you're not sure of, you don't understand, ask our consultants. Our consultants are extremely well trained in OSHA standards. They go to training every year. They're constantly keeping up with what's going on, what different things that they can do out there. We've got a wide variety of different safety consultants throughout the state. And as far as anybody having, maybe somebody might be really good with the forestry. Someone else may be not, and then there's a need for it. We can certainly connect up with that consultant that's got that type of skill set and work for you on that. If there's something we need to look for to get you an answer on, that's what we're here for too. Our whole intent is so that we can help you as an employer keep your workplace safe, which would keep it also compliant with OSHA, which will keep your workers safe. That's the whole intent of what OSHA expects from us, and that's what we do. You can invite our consultants out to your site. Unlike OSHA, we can't come out. We can't bring a warrant. We can't just knock on your door unexpectedly. You've got to invite us out to where we can come onto your job site and we can work with you there. That's the most robust part of our whole program, is that on-site consultation. And that's where our consultants work with you hand in hand and go through your facility and help identify hazards or potential hazards, or if there's anything, and we hope there's not, which is imminent danger. So it's a real value, and it also allows just a whole much better feeling and knowledge of what your business is, so we can help you end to end out there. Consultants can also go ahead and schedule a video conference with you. Email. A lot of our clients do email our consultants because most of the time they're out in the field. So they're not just ready, available if you call on the phone. Rarely will they be in that office probably and pick up the phone, but there is a voicemail on it if you would prefer to phone in. You can also go online to our website. Our OSHCON website is txoshcon.com. That's txoshcon.com. You can go online, you can submit a request for a consultation program, or if you've just got some questions out there on something that you're working with or a standard you're not sure if it's applicable to you, those kind of things, you've got a new piece of equipment, You want to go over something that's in that manual that you may not quite understand at this point, we can certainly go ahead and get back with you on that and do the same. If you are interacting though with one of our consultants already, that's where you can just email throughout the year or whatever and ask our consultants these kind of things, and we'll just keep an ever-evolving relationship with you. And again, we cannot charge you a penny for any of our services, and we're confidential. Also, I did mention, I'm going to step back here a minute, I mentioned if we had a consultant in another area of Texas that might be needed. Our industrial hygienists, for example, they go all over the state. We've got 3 industrial hygienists. If you're up in Amarillo and our industrial hygienist is in San Antonio, and that industrial hygienist, he or she's got to go up to Amarillo, those charges incurred, those are paid through our grant with OSHA. We do not charge you to travel. We do not charge you if we have to stay overnight, or if we have some sort of per diem for a lunch, dinner, whatever, and things like that. Those are no charge to you, so keep that in mind. We're available for anyone here in the state of Texas, and our scope really does remain in the state of Texas, keeping in mind all the other states have their own on-site consultation program. We have a lot of free resources out there. Safety and health publications. Anybody can go out and look at our safety and health publications and use any of those that you want. You do not have to be a private employer to do so. We've got over 300 safety and health publications right now. All of them are in English, and we're getting more of those translated into Spanish also. There's a lot there that is common to all employers and all businesses. I recommend when you do go on our publications, rather than just looking through the index, just scroll through all of the publications. It's a real easy, just scroll through it. When your eye catches something that looks like it would be something that would be of value to your business or relatable to your business, take a look at it. You'll find more times than not there are things in pockets out there that you may not even realize are out there that can add value to your business and to your employees. Additionally, we have a free bi-monthly electronic Safety at Work newsletter. It's a really good newsletter. It doesn't cost a thing. It's electronic. It'll come to your email. You can go online to our website, txoshcon.com. You're going to find the Safety and Health newsletter. You can click on that. It's going to give you a location there where you can subscribe or register to get the publication, the newsletter online. Pretty much we have topics that we talk about, different safety and health topics, some relatable to that time of year. They might be seasonal. OSHA has a lot of free campaigns out there. We do work on those. We advertise those a lot so that anybody that has this newsletter knows that they can participate in these and take a look, maybe even need to go on to OSHA.gov, but let you know those campaigns are out there that are focusing on ladders or fall prevention, grain handling, things like that. There's also some training out there from our workplace safety side of the house where they schedule training. They are totally separate from OSHCON. We are free, we're confidential. Our workplace safety training side of the house, they predominantly do 10 and 30-hour construction training, OSHA training, and they do a 10-hour general industry. Look at those because we tend to list those out, and depending on what metropolitans that they're scheduled in, if they schedule those out and you've got a 10-hour in English or a 10-hour in Spanish, those are at no cost. You'll get your identification card and you'll be able to attend that course at no cost, which is a really good idea. But they tend to be more often registered or filled in to our metropolitans because we have a higher demand for that than we do in more of the outskirts of the big cities. Last but not least, we have safety videos. We've got at least 1,300. There's a wide variety of safety videos we've got out there, and we welcome and encourage anybody. I don't care if you're public, private sector, if you're a school teacher, if you're somebody working on your safety and health, occupational safety and health degree, anything like that. All of these could be played and be really useful to you. So take advantage of them and know that you can. Our website, Just plain and simple, I'm going to say it again, txoshcon.com, txoshcon.com. If you go to our website, you're going to see on there a column over there that talks about different things. One, you'll see the link in the middle. It's going to give you the link to go to the safety videos, the publications, the newsletter. All of those are in a middle column right as you open up the website. On the left side of it, you're going to see things like how to reach us electronically if you want to request a consultation, or if you've got a question on something that you want answered. You certainly can write that out there, send it out, and then it will be given to the consultant in your area to reach out to you and work with you on whatever that request is that you've got on there. Again, it's confidential. Anything you email us, anything you talk to us about, leave a voicemail on, anything like that, they're all confidential. I can't express that enough because it's a really critical part of the clientele relationship with our consultant, and it is important. And the more you work with this, the more comfortable you're going to realize, hey gosh, this really is confidential, and they are on my side and they're working with me to help my business prosper and keep my employees safe. There is a SHARP, it's a Safety and Health Achievement Recognition Program. It's a fact sheet. I think this requires just a minute to talk about it because it is a really unique program. It recognizes small private sector employers with exemplary safety management programs, low injury rates, and extraordinary measures that they go to meet and exceed OSHA standards for their business. It's difficult to get, it's difficult to keep because as things keep evolving, things keep changing in the safety world. Currently, I'm proud to say that we've got 38 SHARPs here in the state of Texas, and all extremely well deserving. But if you're interested in a SHARP program, take a look at it, get with one of our consultants. They can help evaluate where you are and what kind of changes or direction you need to go into to start considering yourself to be looked at for a SHARP recognition program. Return to work. If you've got an injured employee and they can't maybe do their full job or they can't do part of their job, rather than allow them to just stay home all the time, if they can come into the workplace and do some meaningful, purposeful work that is of value to the business itself, and it actually is work that should be done. It's not, putting paper clips together or stacking paper, things like that. It's a real job assignment. Look at that return to work resource. We have a DWC group that really concentrates fully on that return to work, and there's all kinds of free resources out there that they can help you with. So I really encourage you to look at that. If you're in the HR department, definitely take a look at that return to work because you'll see the value that it adds not only to you but to your employees, and especially to that injured employee to be able to come back and engage with the workforce. Scroll down a little further, you're going to see our team names, phone numbers, and the cities we're located in. You'll see our safety and health templates I mentioned, and we'll have other resources on there. Next, we're going to show a short video with an OSHCON client, Watco, and one of our safety consultants, Robert Wood, with a brief narrative of what we do.
Here at Watco, we're a manufacturer of steel storage tanks, and we've been doing that for over 60 years. Some of the safety challenges we've seen here at Watco is really getting our employees to see how the small stuff really helps us and how that can help mitigate like hand injuries, slips, trips, falls. Keep our guys safe is really what we want. We want them to leave work the same way that they came to work. We brought OSHCON in so that we can really get our safety bag up, make sure we're compliant with OSHA and we're not going to have any issues.
When was your last crane inspection?
This morning.
Is it an operator inspection or are they doing load testing?
That is an operator inspection.
As an OSHCON consultant, I assist businesses in becoming more OSHA compliant, as well as helping them create a safer work environment. Once we get a request from a business owner or a business leader, we'll make the visit, we'll show up on site, we'll do a walkthrough, identify any kind of hazards. We are not OSHA and we are not an enforcement agency. I'm trying to educate the employer.
We've had OSHCON out here between 8 to 9 times or so, and the consultations impacted our safety from a standpoint that it just made us better at it. Notice every time they come out, we're constantly just improving on the things that we do with safety.
Not only is it a free confidential service, we can help businesses in lowering their injuries and making a safer workplace. Utilizing Texas OSHCON makes good business sense.
Shifting gears a bit now, we're going to go ahead and look at those top 10 most cited standards, or cited violations as I call them a lot, fiscal year 2024 that OSHA has cited throughout the United States, has cited employees for. If you look at the top 10 on here, these are the ones that I actually said, I got this off the OSHA website when I went into the OSHA.gov top 10 violations for fiscal year 2024. You'll find, and I think most people know this already that have been looking at top 10 violations for a while, they're usually the same violations, but they're just in a different order. Sometimes one might fall off and you might have another one come into the mix of the top 10, but this pretty well makes it clear that these are high-risk, serious violations that are really serious and hurtful to employees and even cause death many times. So it's important, if these violations, these standards where these violations have been given, that you take a real hard look at them, identify which ones fall into your workplace so you can look and make sure you don't have those occurring, or if you do, you can resolve them right now to mitigate that from happening down the road and hurting an employee or even getting cited by OSHA. I think the most critical part here is to keep your employees safe. But there's a lot of clues in these. The violations are under the Code of Federal Regulations, CFRs. The general industry, it's the 1910 CFR. Construction's 1926. If you're in construction, that's got all kinds of different trades underneath it. Most all of your standards are going to be in 1926, but sometimes you're going to have a standard in 1910 that's applicable to you. If you take a look at some of these, you'll see maybe chemicals or something like that. You'll see a crossover both ways from 1910 and 1926. Not a whole lot, but there are some that cross over. So you want to make sure that if you've got a standard in the other CFR, other than where the bulk of yours lie, that you recognize that and you certainly take precautions that you need to keep your location safe. Using the violations, the hazards, these are great opportunities, as I was saying, to remove, to document, and to mitigate risks for your employee, injuries and illnesses and fatalities. In addition to that, you need to really remember the financial risk, legal penalties, insurance costs, liability claims, and other liabilities that can be incurred if an employee is injured, or even worse, if there's a fatality on your job. So it's important that you not only recognize these hazards, but that you understand them, that you can mitigate them, and it really does. It has a genuine impact on the health of your business, the business as a whole, the employees, everything you've got, bidding on jobs, all of that, it comes in under this. Going a little further with the top 10 violations, and I'll kind of quickly go through those top 10, but we've got a lot of good information on our PowerPoint slides that you can look at, so we can refer to that also. But I'll go through that in just a minute here. I think that's our next slide. You want to look at these violations, like I said, do they exist or could they exist in your workplace? And if they do, you really want to go ahead and get in there and identify those hazards, figure ways to implement safety guards against them. Try to find out ways if you need to write programs or you need to have meetings with your employees, what you need to do to help mitigate those from any future injury, illnesses, and sadly, fatalities. Preventing OSHA violations does require a proactive approach. You know, it's kind of like OSHCON, we're a proactive piece of the whole OSHA umbrella. When you look at OSHA violations, you need to go in looking at it and recognizing what do you do to make sure these things don't happen in your work environment. What do you do and how do you do them? Training is a great resource for you. Workplace assessments, make sure there are ways you can go out throughout your workplace and you can identify routinely and check things and make sure everything's in place and safe in the way it should be. And then, as I say, you evolve, or continuous improvement. Safety, as you have different equipment or you're working with different type of environments, those kind of things. There's always things that are going to be just a little different, so you have to continue to evolve with that, and we'd be happy to work with you if need be. Now I'm going to go over the top 10 OSHA violations for fiscal year 2024 as noted in the OSHA.gov website. The first violation is the fall protection general requirements. Simply said, this standard outlines when and where fall protection is required and what safety system and hazard controls need to be used to prevent falls. Of these violations, you'll see some on the PowerPoint, but it's pretty much for this one, it's largely failure to provide adequate fall protection on elevated services. Y'all, sadly, this violation has been the #1 violation for the last 14 years, and it's also the leading cause of death in construction. So this is one that if we work hard at it, if we recognize it, if we set up our guidelines and standards and our checklists and we do what we need to do and educate our employees and make it a safe environment, this is something we can really bring down. But as you know, there's a lot of construction out there. There's a lot of other roofing contractors, commercial siding people, single-family home construction. There's a lot of that going on. So that gives us a lot of opportunity to have our fall protection general requirements not be met. So I really think as we go out, we need to look at all of this, wrap your arms around it, and do your best to make sure it doesn't happen on your watch. As far as mitigating risk, do regular inspections on elevated work areas. Just make it a daily thing or an hourly thing, whatever you need to do. Make sure you've got those guardrails, those safety nets, personal fall arrest systems that are needed based on the standards OSHA has. Ensure that you give your employees hands-on fall protection training. There's nothing better than that for them to not only understand, but be able to safely see it and experience it. The #2 violation, these first two, #1 and 2, these were the two top in fiscal year 2023 also. This is our hazard communication. This is one, if you look at it, it might cross over between a 1910 general industry and a 1926 business over there. There's a lot of chemicals out there. There's a lot of things that go on out there. And this standard basically requires companies to provide and communicate information about how to classify and label workplace chemicals. The main reason for these violations were because improper labeling. No safety data sheets are not current. No written programs are not up to date. No training or retraining on hazardous materials. All of these are essential to chemical safety in your workplace. Hotels, motels, masonry, framing, and roofing contractors, they have a lot of these violations under their privy there. To mitigate it, y'all make sure you've got the SDS sheets, the safety data sheets for every hazard you've got in your work environment. Make sure not only you've got them, but you've got them where all your employees know where they are and where they can access if the need arises. Train your employees on handling chemicals and what to do in case of an emergency. And make sure you clearly label every container you've got with the proper hazard warnings. These are international hazard warnings. Let your employees understand, learn them, know them, practice those, do things like that. And let's go ahead and drive down the number of violations and injuries and illnesses that we get from this HAZCOM. Control of hazardous energy or lockout tagout. This standard does protect workers from mostly amputations and other serious injuries. Basically, what you need to do is make sure that that hazardous energy is shut down for maintenance and servicing. Clear and simple, make sure it's locked down to where that machinery will not start up and cause harm to somebody. Get your written procedures clearly down and share them with your employees on an ongoing basis so everybody understands what that is. If you want to mitigate these risks, do some strict procedures. Don't only tell your employees this is what you need to do, but enforce that it needs to be done and make sure you walk the walk and talk the talk also. Do hands-on training on how to handle that machinery and use that compliance with the lockout tagout protocol. Violation and ladders, I think every business uses ladders in some form or fashion. So it's good that anybody and everybody that's out there take a look at these and make sure that the requirements, you know what those requirements are for proper use of a ladder, an extension ladder, a job-made wooden ladder, step ladders, anything like that. Using the ladder unsafely is the main reason we have violations out there. Not following the requirements that those ladders, all the other information they give you, it is worth reading and complying with, and it will stop or save you from many injuries. Train your employees on proper ladder selection and placement. Y'all inspect those ladders all the time, and if they're damaged, get them out of commission. Don't use a damaged ladder. Make sure your three-point contact rules are all adhered to when climbing. Number 5, respiratory protection. The standard directs employees on establishing and maintaining respiratory protection to protect your eyes or face. Y'all, lack of proper equipment is one of the big things. You need to medically have your employees evaluated if they fall in this area, and they need to be fit tested, and they need to be qualified medically to be able to wear a respirator, and train them and let them know how to clean and maintain those things, and keep an eye on them and do constant checks and follow-ups on those things. Big reasons these things happen is because medical evaluation and testing, fit testing, they're not done, or they're not done frequently enough. Develop written respiratory programs and make sure you've got that PPE there for your employees to use and enforce it. If they've got the PPE, they understand how to use it, make sure they use it. It's just like when you're supposed to wear a hard hat, make sure they're wearing that hard hat when they're supposed to. Number 6, powered industrial trucks. Pretty much, it covers the design, maintenance, and operation of a power industrial truck, which includes forklifts, which is a real big issue or problem or concern out there, I guess I should say. In most of our manufacturing places like that's where it falls a whole lot when you look at that in storage and things like that. Make sure those power lifts, those forklifts, are in their right condition. When they're not being used, you don't want those forks up high. You need to make sure they're down. Make sure that your employees are trained on it. Make sure there's continuous maintenance on those pieces of equipment. If there's a problem with them, pull them out till they're fixed. Y'all, make sure your operators are certified and keep them certified and keep them up with what needs to be done. Do not let somebody on a forklift that just says, yeah, I'm certified. Y'all, validate the certifications, make sure they're current, make sure that employee understands what needs to be done. This is a very critical issue we've got out there with the use of forklifts. Formal training and evaluation is one of the best things you can do. Just regular safety driving protocol, including speed limits, things like that should be enforced out there. Where those forklifts go, and where they don't go when they're out there on a manufacturing floor. And definitely do do routine vehicle inspections. Make sure those machines are safe and they're workable and they won't hurt an employee. Number 7 violation is the fall protection training requirements. Pretty much train your employees on fall protection. Sounds simple, but make sure they understand the value of what you're telling them and the need for what they've got. Refresher course, you can't give enough refresher courses on fall protection. And give them real-world simulation training sessions. Scaffolding was way up as far as numbers, 1 through 10 in 2023, and it's come down a bit. But really, when you look at all 10 of these, they kind of just juggle back and forth mostly throughout the years. They're all critical, and they're always out there. So really look at all of them. Don't say, well, that's number 8. That's not a big deal this year. We don't need to worry about it. No, all 10 of these are very critical things that deserve your attention and the safety of your employees when you incorporate things that will mitigate such type of problems that will be hurtful. Make sure that you've got proper scaffolding construction. Make sure that you have guardrails and they're fully protected. Look at your construction site. Make sure whoever is out there on those or who's getting ready to get on one, that those scaffolds are made in accordance to what they should be. And if they are designed by a qualified person, if need be, and the construction and loaded in accordance with that design. Those are critical things, and those are things that this violation, it happens because they're not in accordance with this kind of thing here. Inspect those scaffolds every shift, y'all. Go out there, make sure that you've got proper installation of your guardrails and your fall protection systems, and start training, if they don't already know, your employees to identify scaffolding and take appropriate action so it's not used if it's unsafe. Number 9 is personal protective and life equipment, eye and face protection. That's a long one. This standard requires employers to provide an eye and face protection to employees whenever necessary to protect that employee. Probably one of the easiest violations to overcome. Buy a lot of safety glasses and then make sure those employees that should be wearing those are face shields. Make sure they're doing that. Enforce compliance. That's part of your accountability, I guess, or your responsibility. While you're out there, provide that PPE to these folks, but make sure they're using it too. It doesn't work unless you do both. And if you enforce the safety glass wearing or the face shields, they're going to know you're serious about it, and employees are going to start wearing them more and more. Failure to protect your employees from flying debris, chemical exposure, all that comes from that face shields and safety glasses that you could use to create some sort of barrier against that. Impact resistant eyewear. Best kind of eyewear you can get in a hazard environment. Make sure you replace that PPE that's damaged. Replace it right away. And do make sure that you reinforce the proper use of PPE and just keep this at the forefront at all times. And don't overlook an employee that's out there that should be wearing these type of safeguards, and they're not. Machine guarding, number 10. Number 9 and 10, these were the same ones that were number 9 and 10 in 2023. Again, they all still fall in the top 10, but I just wanted to throw that out there for you. With machine guarding, basically you want to guard that machine in such a way that your employees protected. You don't want any rotating parts to cause harm. Flying chips, sparks, other hazards that are caused by that machinery. Okay, you want to make sure that there's proper guarding on the machines. You want to make sure nobody's removed any proper guarding on one of those machines. Keep a check, an eye on this at all times to make sure that everything is protected and your employees understand it and they know how to use it. And if it's not protected, they know when to step back and not use that until it is protected. You see this a whole lot in machine shops and metalworking shops. Active monitoring, it's like I said, constantly. Just make it a constant thing you do when you walk around. Make sure those machines are guarded appropriately. Training. You can't hurt but train your employees. How important that is to protect them from that machine. And leadership, you really need to make sure that you drive down any and all safety procedures and protocol from the top down. You need to let your employees know that you genuinely are invested in this and that it's important to you and it's important to them. Just real quick to kind of close it out, I've got my website on here again. It's TXOSHCON, OSHCON.com. Go there and you can find everything else through links pretty much. Or you'll scroll down a little bit, you'll see our names on there. You can give me a call, and certainly I'll be able to direct you according to where you need to go. But I guess in conclusion, when you look at OSHA's top 10 violations, really look at them. Those are high-risk safety hazards that occur a lot. Make sure that you are proactive in what you do to ensure compliance with your workforce. Prioritize safety. You want to make sure you keep those injuries and fatalities down, fines, and any other liabilities attached to it. And I guess my final takeaway would be actively monitor hazards. Y'all pretty well know what they are. Most of these have been around for quite a while. Actively monitor. Make it just a part of your routine walking and going through. Regular training. Build and keep a strong safety culture. Train your employees, train your managers, train your crew chiefs, train everybody so that they understand in the language that they understand what it is and the value added for them to be able to go home at night safely to their families and loved ones. And I'll say it again, leadership commitment, top down. Leadership needs to walk the walk and talk the talk. It adds so much to a safety program and gains so much respect, and it really puts a good emphasis on those employees recognizing that you do care about them and you do care about them being able to go home at night in the same condition they came in, if not better. With that, I'm going to say it's just complying with OSHA standards and having a sound safety program. Overall, it's a good investment in your business's future. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. And then Amber Robertson, she's our team manager South. She will be coming on to answer any questions that you might have. And we'll go through that Q&A a bit. And again, there will be ways that you can reach out to us. Don't hesitate to do that. We're always here to help, and we genuinely mean that. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Let me just go ahead before we start the Q&A. Let me remind everybody. So thank you first and foremost for attending today's comp course session. We really hope you enjoyed learning all about the top 10 OSHA violations. Just as a reminder, you do have to stay on for the entirety of this comp course through the Q&A session to receive that continuing education credit. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and begin with questions that were put into the Q&A tab. So if you haven't already, if you have any questions, please enter those questions directly into the Q&A tab, and we'll start there. So let's take a look. Carla Jackson asked, does OSHA apply to moving or commercial work like driving a vehicle? Yes, that's a great question. So oftentimes, you'll see some of these companies that may, like Barb mentioned, may go across different lines, right? And so in the instance of a commercial company or maybe a moving company, while that employer does have employees out on the road, and OSHA doesn't generally cover those hazards that are regulated by other agencies, in certain instances, they would. So while those employees are on the road conducting work, the DOT rules would take precedence over OSHA. So that would be the Department of Transportation that would be regulating, over the road type things. But let's say, for instance, those employees now are working and driving on a company work site. Then OSHA rules and regulations would take precedence. Okay, so if those employees are loading or unloading at a company work site, or maybe they're driving a company-owned vehicle or an employee-owned vehicle on a company work site for work-related activities, then those OSHA regulations would take precedence. Okay, so they would apply to your company if you're a commercial or a moving company in those instances. Okay, so the next question, what is the definition of a small business? Well, according to OSHA, for the purposes of consultation, a small business is considered anything, a company that has 250 or less employees on an establishment work site, but no more than 500 company-wide. Okay, and so that's how we first, when we make contact or when an employer makes contact with us for consultation, we always try to get a feel for how large of the company are you, because we'll prioritize based on small businesses. The next question, it was mentioned that your services are free of charge, and that also for a walk around, is that also free of charge as well if we come to do a walk around and provide a hazard assessment? Yes, that's a great question. So regardless of what type of service you're requesting, it's going to be free of charge. Our consultants will come out to your work site, do a complete walkthrough. You can let the consultant know, hey, we'd like you to look at all of the facility. We'd like you to focus on just a certain portion of our operations, and that's what that consultant will do. Again, all of those are free of charge and completely confidential. Okay, so the next question here is, have hazards been outlined for remote workers? Yes, that's a really good question. For remote workers, it's becoming more common these days. OSHA does have some guidelines for remote workers because that employer would still have responsibility over those work-related activities that that employee is doing, whether it be at home or in an office setting. So for example, some of the things that the employer should be looking for while that employee is working for the company at home are there any ergonomic hazards, electrical or fire hazards? As you know, when you're working from home, we kind of tend to take shortcuts, possibly. We might be plugging too many things into electrical outlets. And so those are the things that, as an employer, you're going to be wanting to have those discussions with your employee. And as Barb mentioned, the training aspect is the biggest thing, is training your employees to identify any hazard potential. And so these are things that, as an employer, you would want to look for in your company. Okay. The next question, I have a store where employees are getting sick. What should I do? This happens quite a lot. What do? We don't have safety professionals who we can call or who are on staff that can answer these questions for us. That's why we have the Texas Consultation Program. And I would encourage you to go to texasoshcon.com and submit a request. On the website also, depending on the area that you're in, you could reach directly out to a consultant and they will contact you and come out to your location if necessary to do that hazard assessment to help you identify what are those things that could potentially be causing your employees getting sick, and then they'll work with you on those mitigation measures and help provide recommendations for continuous improvement. Okay, the next question, are these for Texas only? Clyde, I'm not sure exactly what that question is asking, but let me see if I can answer it. And if I don't answer it properly, feel free to put comment back in the Q&A and I can answer it more thoroughly for you. So the top 10 OSHA violations are, they will apply to Texas, but they're not going to be Texas only. So this is across the United States. You know, OSHA did all the research to determine where are employees getting hurt the most. So this is going to be across the United States. But, you know, again, some of those may fluctuate from time to time based on the type of activity that is occurring. As you know, here in Texas, we're growing a lot, and you know, especially the bigger metropolitan areas, even expanding out into the rural areas. So there's a lot of construction. So again, those top 10 are pretty much going to stay the same here in Texas, looking at your fall hazards, your hazard communication, your ladder use, and things of that nature. Okay, the next question asks, once OSHCON a visit is made, how long do you have to fix a violation that was found? And then second, if they are not fixed, what is the penalty? Very good question, Michael. So generally speaking, once a consultant wraps up a consultation visit with an employer, we will have 30 days to correct any serious hazard that is identified. Let's say, for instance, though, you have a hazard that is needing to be fixed, and you have to call a special trade in to fix it, and they're running behind and they won't be able to correct it within those 30 days. All we would ask is that you reach out to us directly, let the consultant know these are the issues that we're facing. They'll work with you to put interim protection measures in place to ensure that nobody's going to get hurt in the interim as you're working to fully protect and correct that hazard. And we would extend that out from that 30 days if needed. Okay. And then let me see if I can answer that second part of the question. Any penalties that would be assessed. Again, we wouldn't assess any penalties. Consultation is a free and confidential service. We're here to provide training and education so that you can protect your employees and feel confident in doing so. If we would have a hazard that would be extended maybe outside of a 30 and 60-day window, we would just continue to follow up with you, provide recommendations and that assistance to ensure that it does get corrected. Okay. Consultations, the next question, consultations are free from OSHCON. Yes, that's correct. So here at Texas OSHCON and across all the United States, all the consultation programs are a free service to you. That does include safety and health consultations, as Barb mentioned. We do also have industrial hygienists on staff that can provide free industrial hygiene monitoring, air monitoring, and sampling as well for noise. Okay, let's see the next question. If I take an OSHA training for construction industry, can it also be used for other industries like automotive? Yes, a lot of these do cross over. However, you're going to want to look specifically into the automotive industry to see what other potential hazards you may be encountering. There could be different machinery that is used. And so you'll want to ensure that you're capturing the whole breadth of those potential hazards in those different industries. All right, the next question. Any best practices to prevent dog bites for delivery personnel? You know, the first and foremost would be recognizing the hazard before you even send an employee to a work site or to an area that has that potential. So what we do as consultants, we would walk you through the process of a job safety analysis before somebody is sent to do something. Let's break down the steps of those jobs and think about all of the potentials that could be encountered during the workday. And as you break down those job tasks, you start identifying those potential hazards, such as a dog bite. And so you may have, you always want to start, by eliminating the hazard first, what we call the hierarchy of controls. So is there a possibility to eliminate being bitten by the dog? If not, then you work your way down the controls. Can I substitute? Can I engineer it out? At the very bottom is, if there are no other controls that are effective, is there PPE that we can provide to protect in the case of a dog bite? And then first and foremost, again, is training and hazard recognition and how to avoid and report any potential hazard that is out there. Okay, the next question. We are considered horticulture and ag. We are plant breeders. Would we fall under 1910 or 1926? Okay, so for OSHA regulations, yes, they do have certain standards depending on the type of industry that you're in. Given that you're in horticulture and ag, you would potentially cross over into several of those possibly. Now, 1910 is general industry. Um, so yes, you could go into a general industry environment potentially if you're doing any type of manufacturing after the process of growing, any type of shipping after growing, things of that nature. The 1926 standard that you mentioned, that is now specifically for construction. So unless you are actually going to be doing construction work, then that particular regulation would not apply. Off the top of my head, and let me do a quick little search, I believe the agriculture regulation is 1915. So we would be looking under those standards for 1915 for agriculture. And if you would like, after this Q&A session, I would encourage you guys to reach out to us directly on TexasOSHCON.com so that we can provide further assistance to you. Okay, so let's see the next question. How can small businesses ensure compliance without breaking the bank? That's a great question. With our on-site consultation programs, those are free and confidential to you. So we would love for you guys to look into our website, give us a call, send us an email, whatever you need to do. We'd love to come out to assist you. That's the easiest way to get some training, to get a better understanding of potential hazards that are out there so that you can continue to pass that on to your employees and ensure their safety. All right, the next question here, which training would be good to identify OSHA reportable versus OSHA recordable injuries? That's a very great question, and that's a question that our consultants get all the time. One of the first things a consultant will do when they're interacting with a client is ask to review copies of the OSHA logs. And the main reason they do that is so that they can start identifying, are there particular trends that are occurring in certain areas of the business? And if so, then they can start working with that employer to put protective measures in place to prevent that from happening. But they'll also help you identify injuries or incidents or illnesses that you may be recording on the log that are not per OSHA definition, considered reportable. And so our consultants can provide some informal training on what is recordable versus what is a first aid case. And then we also have the Workplace Safety Group who offers courses throughout the year. And they do offer courses on OSHA record keeping. Okay. Does OSHCON provide their services to local government agencies? Now, again, if you are working in a public sector government agency, we would have to prioritize. We can provide limited compliance assistance to those government agencies, and we would prioritize based on that. Will a consultant be available anytime for assistance when needed upon request? Yes, we have consultants located throughout the state of Texas. So at any point in time when you make a request, they would reach directly out to you. We expect that they would reach out to you within, 5 business days. If you hadn't heard from them in that amount of time, you could reach out to one of their managers to see if the consultation is being scheduled. But yes, as soon as the consultant receives a request, they immediately turn around to scheduling that with you. So again, we have consultants across the state, so there would never be any issue in getting something done quickly. Okay, let's see. The next question, is there a minimum height or weight for fall protection requirements? Yes. So when you're working in general industry, fall protection, you need to start providing fall protection in general industry at heights of 4 feet. When you're working in construction, you're needing to provide fall protection at heights of at 6 feet and higher. Okay. There was another question in the chat that said about the number of OSHA violations per standard. If that individual wouldn't mind putting maybe a little bit more detail into that question, I would love to answer it, or we could also take it offline. But I want to make sure that we do address everybody's questions today as best as possible. All right, let's see here. I have some employers asking me questions on how to complete an OSHA report or if a claim with OSHA was reportable. Can we direct them to, let's see, I just lost that question. It looks like it disappeared. Let me see if I can find it really quick to make sure I do answer it all the way. And I apologize that question, I wasn't able to get to all of it. So what we will do, it looks like we're running up against our time limit here. We will look at all of the questions that are left in the chat, and we will do our best. We would love for you guys to reach back out to us at texasoshcon.com. Submit those questions that you have, and we will reach directly out to you to answer them. Again, we want to thank you for joining us today. If we didn't get to your question, again, feel free to reach out to us. After the webinar ends today, please do take the short survey that pops up. That'll help us improve and make our webinars better as we go forward. And with that, I would like to wish you a happy Wednesday and hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.